Hi, boys and girls. This is Mrs. P, and I'm going to read Chapter 12 of Amelia, Bedelia, and Friends. Beat the Clock. Remember, they're looking for the time capsule that the school buried like 100 years ago, because it is the school's 100-year anniversary. So, Chapter 12. Amelia, Bedelia, Penny, and Joy raced to the student lounge. Kids and parents and teachers were gathered around the stump table, eating ice cream and cotton candy and buzzing like bees. Mr. Jack held up a 2-foot length of white plastic pipe that was a foot in diameter. This was left over from an odd job I did. It's perfect for storing something. I even glued a cap on the end. He handed it to Mrs. Roman. Put whatever you want to save in it, and then I'll glue another cap on the other end to seal it. Well, then how do we open it? Asked Wade. No one has to worry about that for 100 years, and I'm sure someone in the future will be able to figure it out. The students of Oak Tree Elementary lined up to put things in the time capsule. Some put in whatever they had in their pockets, such as coins or pens. Others had written long letters. There were a few acorns. Rose put in her favorite book. That had better not be a library book, said Mr. B. You don't want your great-grandchildren to have to pay the fine on a book that is 100 years overdue. This is in honor of you, Mrs. Shock, said Angel, as she and Cliff approached. Approached the stump, carrying something. We are sure that 100 years from now, kids will still be talking about you. We figured that if Roman numerals have lasted this long, then people 100 years in the future would understand this message, said Cliff. He held up a sign that looked like a license plate. SHLK IZGR8. Shulk is great. For once, Mrs. Shulk had trouble seeing. Her hawk-like eyes were brimming with tears. She hugged Angel and Cliff. You are all great. This is for everyone at Oak Tree Elementary, said Mrs. Shulk. She held her sign for a minute and then put it in the time capsule. Last call, said Ms. Hotchkiss, waving her feathered cap. Anyone else want to contribute something? Don't seal it yet, said Pete. He came forward and took out his great-grandfather's pocket watch. He held it up for all to see. It sparkled like it was brand new, reflecting the light as it dangled from a gold chain. My great-grandfather devoted his life to the future of this city. He thought that the best way to ensure a bright future was with education. Every generation climbs upon the shoulders of the one that came before, trying to see into the future. My great-grandfather helped many little acorns grow into mighty oaks 100 years ago. He contributed his most prized possession to the future. Today, I would like to do the same, to honor his memory and his faith in us. People were applauding Pete long after he wrapped up the watch in its original covering and carefully placed it in the time capsule. Clay's father applied a glue to the end of the pipe, and Miss Hotchkiss was given the honor of putting on the cap to seal it. And then Clay's father handed it to Don and Cliff to put into its stone vault by the student lounge and the stump. Amelia Bedelia was standing next to Clay, whispering back and forth during the ceremony. This feels like a funeral, said Clay. A bunch of people standing around watching a burial. Remember when we buried that pet gecko in my backyard, said Amelia Bedelia. I sure do, said Clay. I was the one who defrosted him after months in the freezer. What was its name, said Amelia Bedelia. Roger, whispered Clay. No, that was the owner, said Amelia Bedelia. They were quiet until the name popped into both of their heads at the same time. Georgie, they said loudly. Shh. Shh, said Mrs. Shock, glancing behind her to catch who was talking. Amelia Bedelia looked around, trying to memorize the faces of her friends and the people in her hometown. It was dawning on her that no one there today would be around for the 200th birthday celebration to open their time capsule. Not her teachers, not her parents, not, finally, And probably not her. Amelia Bedelia was happy that she had taken the time to write a note and put it in the time capsule. She'd written it in cursive, then printed it too, in case the people in 2120 couldn't read cursive. Let's see. To the students of Oak Tree Elementary, there is nothing I can do to impress you. There is no invention or technology I have that will not be out of date in 100 years. Instead of trying to predict what the world will be like in 100 years, I promise that I will be kind and helpful and work really hard to make the world better for the future. Your friend, Amelia Bedelia. As the ceremony came to a close, Amelia Bedelia and her friends grabbed shovels and helped Mr. Jack bury their time capsule back in the stone vault. I know what we need, said Joy, once they'd finished piling up the dirt and stamping it down. Ice cream. Amelia Bedelia laughed. That is a date, she said. Oh, whoops. We skipped a couple of pages. Oh, and that was the end of chapter 12, but wait a minute. Let's see this. Amelia Bedelia, this might be the very end of the book. Amelia Bedelia and Friends, The Cat's Meow. Hi, turn the page for a special sneak peek at my next adventure. What is this about? If at first you don't succeed, Chapter 1. Remember, people, said Mrs. Garcia, Amelia Bedelia's science teacher at Oak Tree Elementary, all great inventors think outside the box. Amelia Bedelia looked at her friend Joy and shrugged. Teachers were always telling them to think outside the box. Amelia Bedelia rarely stood in a box to think, and neither did any of her friends. But Amelia Bedelia had also never invented anything famous, at least not yet. Not a light bulb like Thomas Edison, or shampoo made out of peanuts like George Washington Carver, or a chocolate chip cookie like Ruth Wakefield, or even a pair of earmuffs like Chester Greenwood. An inventor starts with a problem and then finds a solution that doesn't already exist, Mrs. Garcia continued. So let's think about that for a minute. What is a problem that you would like to solve? Okay, so now they're just talking about the next book, so we're going to stop right there. And that is the end of Amelia Bedelia and Friends, Beat the Clock, because now they've already put the time capsule back in the ground. So that was fun. All right, goodbye.